You hate Mondays? I want to suggest that you haven't found your Ikigai yet. Your Ikigai is that beautiful Japanese word for passion and purpose, and the reason for waking up in the morning that's bigger than ourselves. In Monday Morning Motivation, I will give you pertinent ideas and habits to achieve a life that you adore.
This is probably the place where real entrepreneurs are separated from people that are just, giving it a go, is your daily habits. And you have to know that you're going to have to work on your habits every single day, all the time. We are slaves of our habits. We're creatures of habits. And if you say, no, I'm not, I'm going to get out of that, or I'm tough, I'm not that, then you're just kidding yourself. We are all slaves of habits. You might as well make them good habits. So if you know you're going to be a slave to your habits, you might as well work on your habits and make them good habits, because they will create your life. One habit that really worked well for me, I learned this from my mentor, is make your calls first thing every single day. You can make your calls anytime, I guess, but if you procrastinate and you leave it for too long, or you leave it for late in the day, it doesn't happen. And I found other people that are working in jobs and so on, especially on a Monday morning. People on a Monday morning are in the mode of getting things done. If you can get phone calls happening before 10 a.m. on a Monday morning, and every morning, Monday morning, Tuesday morning, Wednesday, every morning, get your phone calls done, make it whatever you want. Some of you might want to do 10 calls a day. Some of you might want to do 5 or 6 calls a day. Even 5 calls a day before 10 a.m. It's incredible what that does. You can make those phone calls first thing in the day. That goes a long way, I found. It creates a bit of a funnel, or a bit of a pipeline of clients, because if you, and I teach this to my team all the time, if you create this pipeline of contacts and clients through all the phone calls, if you do 5 or 6 or 10 phone calls every morning before 10, there's this constant flow of follow-up phone calls that need to be made, and appointments that need to be had, and appointments that were made that need to be had. And so there's work lined up in the pipeline if you do the 5 or 6 phone calls. But if you don't do the phone calls in the morning, there's no work. And I find so many people that want to be entrepreneurs that say, it's just not working for me, there's no clients, there's no this work coming in. Well, start with the basics, which is 5 or 10 phone calls every morning before 10, get the work lined up.
I've noticed over the years that you're a very efficient person. You're very calculated. Obviously, as an accountant, you should be. But you're very calculated in the way that you go about your business. And we've had numerous conversations just about morning rituals specifically. I think if people have a look at your YouTube channel or some of the content you're putting out on social media, it revolves very much around your passion to teach these morning rituals. So, for me that was very interesting, and it was new, because I've sort of found that success is success, and everybody just says it differently. The principles of success sort of stay the same, but it's just how you carry it across. So there are thousands of books, for instance, that you can read, and most of them can make a difference. But I think it's the time of your life that you're in that it will affect you in whichever way. But it's almost like a lot of the things are being just said over and over again, but it's a lot of the same. But once I tapped into morning rituals, that is something that was completely new to me, and I found it very, very interesting, and I myself would like to learn more about it. So maybe let's get into the 5 a.m. club story, and how you sort of like see how that can be a potential asset for an entrepreneur, to start their day.
Yes. Yeah, so to give you a more, probably be real in my answers, that my morning rituals, or my morning routine starts at 4 and ends at 6. So I've got a 2-hour period that I do my morning rituals.
Now that is like, I'm sure people listening as well will be like, that is like a job well done. I mean, most people, if they wake up between 4 and 6, it's not because they have morning rituals, it's just because they're waking up because of something else, or it's lack of sleep, or so continue.
Well, if you can just quickly freeze on that or stop on that point, but recently I had a talk at the event, and the promoter or the person in charge of that event.
The MC? Who's the MC?
Let's call him the MC.
Okay.
He actually, while I was talking, he was keep asking me, but he told me, I mean, there's no way I can wake up this early. I mean, and at a certain point of time, I told him that's exactly your reason why you can't wake up at 4 or 5 or 6 or whatever case you want to wake up in the morning, because you program your subconscious mind really that you can't.
This is me now.
Exactly.
I mean, like,
and you've been there as well.
I
I've done an interview with you previously
exactly.
that you told me that.
Yeah.
And you repeat that to yourself, and your subconscious mind believe it.
True.
And because you feed it every day to him. So at the moment I told him that, a week later he started waking up earlier, just because he released that idea that he can't. So I think that's really the first thing about morning rituals or morning routine, is that really just believe and tell yourself you can. I mean, it's really just, we can't do anything.
I'm very fortunate to be in a business which is on the ground. So you speak to Omi that's making some bird feeders in his back garden or in his backyard, and you're also speaking to suppliers that supply big national brands. So we meet a lot of entrepreneurs, and I find 90% of them that come and see me to do business with us are unprepared. So they just lack the basic skills of what is needed, and unfortunately people are set in their ways sometimes, and then when you want to give them a positive advice, some of them take it personal, or they don't take it the way they should. So the first tip I could give anybody is listen to what somebody's trying to tell you, even if you don't agree with what that person is saying. Just at least hear him out. Be open to criticism and take it for what it is. It's not personal. There's many times people will think that if you've got some advice to give them, they take it personal. If you think they've done something wrong, they can feel that you're personally attacking them. It's not that. So listen to advice and learn from it. Even if you're not going to implement it, just keep that in your back of your mind. And then the next one is be prepared. We would have so many new entrepreneurs coming to see us, and we'd ask them the most basic questions and things you'd think they would think through, and they're not prepared for that. Pricing structures, markups, silly questions, or for they think it's silly questions. It's very important to a businessman to know exactly what your plan is and what you want to do. So make sure you're prepared. So you're going to listen to him, and you're going to be prepared when you go and see him, because it's a bad impression. I will sometimes think I don't actually want to do business with somebody, because he feels like he's so unprepared for his presentation today. How's it going to be in the future doing business with him? And the third one, and that's pretty crucial. Don't run before you can walk. Think and ask basic questions. If you want to know something about your product, don't ask your mother, don't ask your wife, don't ask your kids, don't ask your friends, because they will give you an answer which you want to hear. So don't ask any family. If you think the branding is nice or you think the product is good, don't be shy to go out into the face of the public and go and ask people's opinion. It's exposing yourself to sometimes what you don't want to hear, but that's the most important thing I can say to any person. Go out there, show the people what you want to do. If you have to explain too much of what the product is you're selling, you've got a problem already. So just make sure that you speak to people, and don't be, some people are scared somebody's going to copy them. Yeah. So they'll rather want to keep this big secret back. Don't. Show it out there, and because otherwise you could spend a lot of money. And before you spend money, don't spend money. Don't spend money. Advice is free. People's opinions are free. Don't spend the money. Do the printing, develop the product until you got everybody's opinion.
I would say one of the most important things in your evening and morning habits would be not to make it too complicated. Don't work out a regime that makes it difficult for you to stick to, because then you fail, and feeling a failure is never a good thing. So two very important things for me in the evening before I switch off is, first of all, reflect on what happened to you that day. Separate the good and the bad, and then when you think about the bad things that happened or the things that turned out the other way than you expected or wanted it to be, apply your mind and your creativity to how can you make this better and how can you take control and advantage of the situation. It isn't necessarily negative. Your first perception of it is only negative. And then secondly, for me the most important is envision your next day. Have your diary set for the next day. My diary is strictly set 6 o'clock every afternoon for the next day, and what is on there, that is priority, and if there's time left then I would see or give attention to other agendas, but that for me is a strict rule. And then before I switch off in the evenings, I envision what is going to happen, who am I going to see, what am I going to say to them, and most importantly, envision the goal for that specific day. Every day in your life is a given. You receive it for free, but you will never have the ability to repeat it. So make the best of what is in front of you for that day. And to do that, for me, I have to set out definite goals. In other words, I don't really strive for big goals. I take it a day at a time, and you make a success of that day. There's no, tomorrow's another day for me. For me, every day is important. Also from Richard Branson, he made a statement once that said, something great don't have to be perfect. And being in the entrepreneurial field, one of the things that you have to live with is it's not going to be perfect. No startup is perfect. So if you are overly critical on yourself, and if you are a perfectionist, those are the two things that will most likely stop you from being successful. So if you are a new entrepreneur starting up with stuff, you have to focus on what are the things that you can control, can make a difference on, and what are the things for either for now or for the future that you cannot control. And then distinguish between the two and start focusing on the things that you can change. And most important, absolutely the most important thing is have an absolute clear goal, and no matter what happens, never lose focus on that. Because the difference between success and failure in entrepreneurship is your ability to apply your resources to get your goal through your focus. And if you're not focused, you can be the most energetic, you can do whatever you can, but you will not be successful.
Social media is a challenge. I'm very lucky in that for me to be active on social media is not essential for me in terms of my business success, and I'm very fortunate for that, because that's not true for many businesses, and I think going forward it's going to be even less true. And I actually feel for the younger generation in that you have to have a certain social profile, and it's not really going to be optional, which is going to be difficult. So the one thing that I would encourage people, I don't know if it's a bad habit, for me social media, it's very much a double-edged sword. It gives you the ability to connect with many people on a very shallow level. It's very short term, and it gives you a little bit of dopamine, and that's where we're checking and we're seeing. But the problem is it's not substantive. It's 10 seconds of happiness, but then it's done, and then you got to do it again. And the challenge is being something that drives dopamine. As all addictions, one needs to be aware of that. Am I doing it because there's a reason, or am I habituating something that can be addictive? And also, what part of my life am I putting there? If I if I post a new clip or something, and I get more dislikes than likes, is this affecting me deeply?
Yes.
And should it? These are all very difficult questions because I would like to be able to say it's not important, don't have it part of your life, which I do, which I'm fortunate for. But it's not the paradigm going forward.
Yes.
And being the father of 3 girls, it's something that I actually spend quite a bit of time thinking about, which I don't have many answers on. Is what is the correct place for social media? In my children's life, and as a parent, how do I introduce it? I think we can all see the challenges and problems with social media, but it's not going away. So what's the correct place? And I think the challenge is, as a society, we haven't answered this. This is actually new to humanity.
Yes.
Humanity's had a lot of history and a lot of things we've done right and wrong we can learn from, but not this one.
That's why, like you said, we're all still trying to figure it out, and we're all trying something to at least limit it.
So for me, the as with all things in life, if I remember the wise words of my grandparents, all things in moderation, which is good advice all the time. Anything too much is too much, and I think social media can often and easily go into that category. And I think the main thing to remember with social media, it's a great business tool. It's a nice social tool, but it's very shallow.
There's no connection really.
There's a shallow connection,
but not a real personal connection. Yeah.
Exactly, and the thing is, if you want to be a happy human being, you can't do it on a superficial level, because deep happiness is just that, which it requires a deep connection. And as much as we may want to be digital and all of these things, we are still very physical, practical beings. So sitting in front of somebody, looking them in the eye, that's a real proper connection, and we need to weight things accordingly. I've seen much to my sadness, a scenario a few times in a restaurant where the whole family's sitting around the table and everybody's on their phones. And they're actually not even. They're actually going to WhatsApp each other around the. But I can't look up and go, "Hey Jasper, what do you want?" I'll just, "Hey Jasper, what do you want?" And you'll the pizza. And when the waiter comes, the one person will, which actually, that's how I knew they were WhatsApping each other, because everybody's on their phones, and the waiter comes and one person orders, and they all get food. I was like, "How are they telepathic? How's this?" And then I realized, no, everybody, they're having a conversation via WhatsApp at the restaurant with each other, rather than looking at each other. And this was a family, and to me, it was a truly shocking moment. And in terms of, I spoke about parenting. I went, okay, we're not going to do that one. So we've actually in our home we've got a rule: no phones at the table, and somewhere else. So it doesn't matter if it rings, if the world's burning down. That is our time together, and we will speak to each other, and we will talk about how our day went. If you do the research as a family, eating meals together gets awesome outcomes for the children, regardless of everything else. It's probably, if you're going to do one thing for your kids, just have meals with them, which is, I think, that's something we can all do, and the research supports that very much. So, in terms of social media, just to sum it up from my side, I think the important thing is to understand it, put it in a box, and attribute a certain value to it. And don't let it just happen, because the default tends to be more and more and more, because it's got a little dopamine aspect to it, where I'm getting a little payoff, and people can get drawn into that, and you need to resist it. We know that we need to resist the desire to drink alcohol the whole time. There's a time and a place for it, and we know it can become a problem. And to me, we've got to understand social media almost in the same way. It doesn't have to be a problem. Just as you can drink, and it can actually, your 2 glasses or a glass of wine a day can be beneficial to your health. A bottle a day is not. So it's not the what, it's the how. And I think social media is exactly that.
Thank you very much for watching. Please remember to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Also go down to the description below, and you will find a link to a free gift bag for entrepreneurs to the value of 57,000 Rand. I created this gift bag for entrepreneurs to the value of 57,000 Rand for the mere fact for small business owners to start supporting each other. Part of this free gift bag is a 3 months free monthly accounting services from our company called Dryk Holdings.